Hi, I'm Libby Weaver. Thank you for selecting Keystone Learning Systems for your software training needs. In this introductory course, we felt it appropriate to take a minute and provide you with a few helpful hints. These suggestions will aid you in getting the most from the training. While effective learning can take place by simply watching the video and then practicing what you learn later on your computer, we suggest you use your TV and PC together. This allows for a hands-on approach where you can practice as you learn. In this see it, hear it, do it environment, you follow the actions taken on the video and pause the tape as you need to practice. You also have the option to rewind and review. On the back of each video cover, you will find our reference system. Each topic and number corresponds directly with the number on the actual video in the lower right-hand corner. If you need to find a subject, fast forward to that area on the tape. You can also use the search features on your VCR to locate specific sections. Keystone Learning Systems also offers keynotes with many of our courses. Keynotes are quick reference booklets that complement our video training. They provide information in a concise, easy-to-follow printed format. Please refer to the back of your Keystone catalog for a sample or call us for more information.
Hi, we're the Balters. I'm Dan, and this is Allison. We've been invited by Keystone Learning Systems to be your very own personal video instructors for the brand new Windows 95.
Windows 95 is the ultimate of operating systems. It allows you to harness the full power of your personal computer.
On this tape, we're going to take you through an introduction to Windows 95. We'll show you how to maneuver through the desktop, and we'll take you on a tour through the rest of Windows 95. We'll show you how to get help when you need it, how to work with programs, and how to keep track of folders and files with the new Windows Explorer. Finally, we'll show you the new Windows taskbar. In this first section, we're going to take you on an introduction to the brand new Windows 95. We'll compare and contrast Windows 95 with Windows 3.1 and Windows for Workgroups. We'll show you what happened to that old operating system known as DOS, and then we'll show you what Windows 95 can really do for you. Finally, we'll show you how to start Windows 95. We have a lot of ground to cover, so let's get started. So what is Windows 95? Windows 95 is the next generation of personal computer operating systems. It's a successor to MS-DOS, Windows 3.x, as well as Windows for Workgroups. It's compatible with old applications, performs well on mainstream hardware, it's reliable, and it's designed with the first-time computer user in mind. This box that I'm holding here, Microsoft DOS, is what you needed to have in order to allow your computer to run. It's the software that makes your computer actually do things. With Windows 95, we don't need DOS anymore. Windows 95 completely replaces DOS. So all you need to know is that Windows 95 has everything that you need for your computer to harness its full potential. I mentioned personal computer graphical operating system. By graphical, we mean it's easy to use. You don't have to remember complicated commands. Simply point and click.
Dan just told you how Windows 95 is different than DOS. I'm going to tell you how Windows 95 is different from Windows 3.1 and Windows for Workgroups 3.11. Windows 95 is even easier than Windows and Windows for Workgroups. It has an improved, more intuitive user interface and a plug-and-play architecture. It's faster and more powerful. It's a complete operating system, not limited by MS-DOS. It has what's called 32-bit preemptive multitasking design. This makes it much more effective in its processing. It's Win32 API, 32-bit OLE, and multimedia ready. If you don't know what all this means, it means it's very powerful and ready to go. It's also a much more stable environment. You have less downtime, and that means more productivity for you. Program errors are now handled gracefully. It's not going to crash your machine. And you're easily connected. This means you have open networking and a system management architecture. You have LAN, local area network, and WAN, wide area network, file and print sharing, electronic mail and fax. You're connected to the world with Windows 95.
Cool.
Superior support for multimedia is just one of the fine new features that Windows 95 offers. Let's see what some of the other ones are. There are some major enhancements that Windows 95 has to offer. Some of these include speeding up printing, graphics, disk access, as well as network access. This is because Windows 95 is what's called a 32-bit operating system. Suffice to say that it's fast. Windows 95 can perform multiple tasks at once. This is called preemptive multitasking and multi-threading. All you need to know is that Windows 95 will allow you to do more than one thing at one time, and again, it can do it reliably and quickly. Windows 95 will ease communication and access to information. This means that Windows 95 will give you the ability to dial into service providers, as well as dial in to your office when you're out of your office to go ahead and access and work on information. Windows 95 will enable a whole new generation of applications and devices. This is known as the Win32 API and plug-and-play architecture. Again, this means that a whole new generation of applications can be written based on this new 32-bit operating system. And plug and play means a whole new generation of hardware can come out which the Windows 95 operating system can very easily recognize and configure without any user intervention. The bottom line on all this is Windows 95 will allow you to get more things done, and you'll be able to get them done more easily. Starting Windows 95 is easy if you've successfully installed and configured it. For help on installing and configuration, be sure to see our tape on installing Windows 95. Once Windows 95 has been installed properly, starting it up is just a matter of turning on your PC and letting Windows 95 go through its boot process. And you can see here, it's going ahead and starting up Windows 95. At this point, the Windows 95 logon dialog comes up and asks for a username and a password. Since my username is already in there correctly, I'll enter my password and click on OK. And the next thing we'll get is the Windows 95 opening welcome screen. And here we are at the Welcome to Windows 95 dialog. The first thing you'll notice is there is a tip of the day which Windows 95 offers you right here in the center. And along the right-hand side, we have several command buttons. One offering us a Windows tour, one showing us what's new in Windows 95. The third one allowing us to register our copy of Windows 95 online if we have access to a modem and a telephone line. The fourth button down is showing us a product catalog of Microsoft products, and the fifth one down is showing us the next tip of the day if we're interested. Finally, we can close this dialog box down, and over here on the left, we have an option checkbox asking us if we'd like this welcome screen shown the next time that we start Windows 95. We can toggle this on or off, and we'll leave it on for now. Let's go ahead, take our mouse, and click on the Close button to proceed to Windows 95. And we're at the Windows 95 desktop. We've just shown you an introduction to the brand new Windows 95 graphical operating system. We showed you what Windows 95 is and how it differs from Windows for Workgroups and Windows 3.1. We also showed you what happened to DOS and what Windows 95 can do for you. Finally, we showed you how you can start Windows 95. In this section, we're going to show you how to maneuver through the Windows 95 desktop. We'll show you how you can use your mouse as a pointing device, and we'll also talk about some computer basics. We'll show you how to work with Windows, and finally, we'll show you how to work with the desktop icons in Windows 95. What you see here in front of you is called the Windows 95 desktop. It's called a desktop because it is supposed to resemble a desktop like you would have at work or in your home office. The major part of your desktop that you're looking at is called the wallpaper. Your wallpaper is your background to your desktop. You can change your wallpaper to be any one of many different schemes, and we'll see how to do that a little later. In addition to the wallpaper, we have what's called icons. You can see right over here, starting in the upper left-hand corner, we have a few icons. If I take my mouse pointer and position it directly over one of my icons, and then click my left mouse button while it's positioned over one of the icons, notice the change in color. What this means is Windows 95 is telling you, you have selected this particular icon. Notice the difference in color of this icon as contrasted with these other icons here, because these are not selected. My computer is selected. What does it mean that it's selected? It means you can perform actions on it, such as position your mouse pointer over it again, click your left mouse button and hold it, and you can then drag it around the desktop, and you can move it. If I select a different icon by positioning my mouse pointer over it, clicking once and letting go, I've now selected my network neighborhood instead of my computer. The network neighborhood icon is now selected. As we mentioned earlier, Windows 95 is called a graphical environment. This makes it easy to use, especially for novice users. However, all graphical environments require the use of some sort of pointing device. Usually, this device is a mouse, and let's see how we use a mouse. You're looking at a typical example of a mouse pointing device. This happens to be a Microsoft mouse. Notice it has two buttons, a left button as well as a right button. Grasp the mouse with your hand like this. This allows you to use this finger for left clicking and this finger for right clicking. You move the mouse around the desktop, or we have a mouse pad here, which is helpful, and you simply move it right, left, up or down, and it will correspondingly point that way on your screen. If you run out of mouse pad room, you can simply pick the mouse up, move it over, and you can start from where you left off. If you turn the mouse upside down, you'll notice there's a little ball, and this is what allows it to roll along your desk. When we talk about clicking, normally we're talking about left mouse clicking. To click, simply press down and release. To click and drag, press down, hold it, and then drag the mouse to the position that you want your mouse pointer on the screen. When you've positioned your mouse pointer where you want it, then you can drop or let go of the mouse by simply letting up on the mouse button. Right clicking is accomplished by using the other finger and clicking on the right mouse button, like so. When we talk about double clicking your mouse, this is always done with the dominant, usually the left mouse button. We would simply double click in succession. If you move your mouse in between the clicks, like click, move, click, or click, move, click, that's not a double click. A double click, you must leave the mouse stationary and then double click, like that. Here we are back at the Windows 95 desktop. And if you remember, we had selected the icon entitled Network Neighborhood right here. Let's go back and reselect the icon entitled My Computer, which is up here. If we take our mouse, position our mouse pointer somewhere over the icon, and simply click the left mouse button one time. So now we have selected the My Computer icon. So we've seen what single clicking does, but there are other options when you're using a mouse. There's something called double clicking. To perform a double click on an icon, simply move your mouse pointer, position it directly over the icon you wish to perform the action on, in this case a double click. And you have to click in quick, rapid succession without moving the mouse. If you move the mouse, it is no longer considered a double click and nothing will happen. But if you do it properly, I'm going to double click right now, click, click, and notice the My Computer window opens up over here on the right side of our screen. And it shows us what's inside of the window. This is a graphical representation of our entire computer. Notice you see 3.5-inch floppy drive. We have a hard drive called drive C, another hard drive called drive D, and we have other drives here as well. We also have our control panel folder and our printers folder. I can close down this window here in Windows 95 by coming up to the upper right-hand corner and clicking on this X right here. The X means exit, and it will close this down, and it will again only be an icon. Single click, and we get the icon My Computer, which is again selected. One major difference of Windows 95 as compared to Windows 3.1 or Windows for Workgroups is the fact that Windows 95 takes full advantage of the right or secondary mouse button. Let's see how this works. We've just seen what left mouse clicking and double left mouse clicking does to Windows 95 icons. What if we come over, once again position our mouse pointer directly over the My Computer icon, and we will click our right or secondary mouse button this time, one time. And notice we get a menu with many options. Now I haven't moved my mouse pointer at all. Watch what happens as soon as I start to bring my mouse pointer down. Windows 95 highlights the first menu option. We have Open, Explore, and all I'm doing is moving my mouse pointer down. I'm not holding down any of my mouse buttons at all. Automatically, as I go down, Windows 95 is following me. We have a Find option, Map Network Drive, Disconnect a network drive. We can create a shortcut, we can rename the icon, and we can look at the icon's properties. We'll take a look at these in a moment. This is the value of right mouse clicking in Windows 95. If we wish for this menu to go away, simply move off of the menu into a blank area of the desktop anywhere and hit or click your left mouse button, and the window completely goes away. Notice now we have no icon selected. My Computer is the same color as all these other icons here. Network Neighborhood, the Inbox, the Recycle Bin, the Microsoft Network icon, and the My Briefcase icon. If I come up somewhere else on the desktop, and this can be anywhere on the desktop that doesn't have an icon, and if I click my right mouse button, again, another menu comes up, this time a menu that is appropriate for the desktop itself. We can arrange icons, line up icons. If we had copied something, we'd be able to paste it in here. We also have a new selection, and we have properties for the desktop. Once again, if we wish for this menu to go away, simply go off of the menu anywhere on the desktop and click your left mouse button, and it disappears. One of the great benefits of using Windows 95 is that you do not have to be a computer guru in order to use it effectively. However, there are some basic concepts that you might want to try to understand. The first concept would be, what is an operating system? Again, an operating system is similar to a tape that you would buy for your tape player. Your tape player, without a tape to play, really can't do anything. By the same token, your computer, without software and without an operating system for the computer to run, can't really do anything. That's what an operating system is. there's a couple of other concepts we should go over. Your computer has memory. You might have heard it referred to as RAM, or random access memory. All that you need to know is the more RAM your computer has, basically the faster that it will run. RAM is something that is essentially temporary memory. When you turn your computer off, everything that is in RAM or in memory will go away. This is contrasted with a hard disk or a floppy disk. A floppy disk is a little disk that you insert into the computer that can only hold a limited amount of data. You may be familiar with this. A hard disk, on the other hand, is inside of your computer. You really can't get at it and you can't remove it. This holds a lot of data, and this is referred to as permanent storage. Even after you turn off your computer, any data that's stored on your hard disk remains there for as long as you desire to keep it there. It will stay there until you delete it. While we are talking about your computer's hard disk or hard drive, let's also talk about how your computer's hard disk must be organized. If we once again come up and select the My Computer icon, that's clicking on it one time. If we double click on it to open up the window, we get a window showing everything associated with our particular personal computer. Let's talk about our C drive, and generally if your computer has just one hard drive, and most of them do, you would be talking about the C drive. If we select the C drive by clicking on it, as I just did, we can then take a closer look at our hard drive by double clicking on it. With our mouse pointer positioned directly over the C drive icon, if we double click, another window opens up and we can see more detail about our hard drive. We see here folders. You can tell these look like very similar to manila folders. Folders are very similar to folders you'd find in your own filing cabinet in your home or office. Folders contain files, just as a file drawer contains files. If we scroll down, we can see in addition to folders, there are actually files also stored on our hard disk. These files contain information, just like your files contain information that are inside of one of your file drawers in your file cabinets. If we want to look at the inside of a particular folder, all that we need to do is come over to the one that we want, such as Win95, position our mouse pointer over it. If we click once, we've only selected it. And if we click twice in succession, we open up that folder and we get a new window showing us all of the files that are located inside of this folder called Windows 95. You can see there are many different files that are stored inside of this folder. As you may have already noticed, each time we seek to see more details, either about an icon or about a folder that contains files, Windows 95 opens up a new window. This is part of the reason why Windows 95 is called Windows. We deal with Windows quite a bit. Windows can be moved, sized, and closed. Let's see how we can do that. Here we are looking at an open window, which happens to be the Win95 folder. And we're looking at the contents. We're looking at what is inside of the Win95 folder. We can tell this because here on the title bar it says Win95, and to the left of it, it has a little picture of an open folder. This is how we know what we're looking at. Now, folders can contain other folders. This is why I'm clicking on these as we go. These are folders inside of folders. If I were to double click and open these up, we would see their contents in a separate window, a new window. And of course, in addition to folders, once again, we do have files. So folders can contain a combination of other folders as well as files. Now you'll notice that this is the active window. How do we know this? Well, the title bar, in this case, is blue. If I were to take my mouse pointer and move and go off of this window to another window, I could click anywhere in here to make this window the active window. If I click, notice that now this window is no longer hiding, and this window takes the foreground and puts the other window into the background. And now, once again, we're looking at the window called My Computer. With an active window, there are many things we can do with it. We can take it grab it by the title bar, hold down our left mouse button, this is called clicking, and then dragging by moving our mouse, and we can move the window anywhere around the entire Windows 95 desktop. When I let go of it, this is where it will now be placed, like right here, and notice it was moved. We can also size our windows. If we come to any edge of a window, such as the top edge, notice my mouse pointer changes to a double-headed arrow. If I go to the side, it's also a double-headed arrow, this being a horizontal arrow as opposed to an up and down vertical arrow. I can go to the other edge of the window, and again, I can size that. The way that this works is, as long as you see the double-headed arrow, you can hold down your left mouse button and keep it held down, and then simply move your mouse, and you will elongate, or you can make the window more narrow, depending upon the way in which you're moving your mouse. Once you let go, the window then changes size. If you want to perform both vertical and horizontal sizing at the same time, you can come to any corner and you get the double-headed arrow. Click and hold and drag in any direction that you please. I'm going to fill up almost the whole screen, and when I let go, all we're going to see is the My Computer window. So I've gone ahead and sized it. I can also size it back down by once again grabbing the corner, getting the double-headed arrows, clicking and dragging, and I can make it as small as I like. And let go. Let's go ahead and drag this by clicking and dragging its title bar, and let's bring it up towards the top of the screen. You'll notice that on the right-hand side of the title bar, there are three different icons. One is a line, one looks like a full window essentially, and then the last one over here is an X. The X, as we've already seen, stands for exit. That means that you will close this window if you click on the X. The one over here will mean that the window will take up the full desktop or the full screen. If I click on this icon, notice what happens. It takes up the whole screen, and I can't even see my desktop. I also cannot move or size this window any longer, because this is what's called a maximized state. You cannot get any bigger than this. It's maximized. This is called maximizing your window. Notice that my icons over here off my title bar are slightly different. I still have my line, and I still have my X, but I no longer have that full screen icon. I have what looks like two screens, one in back of the other. This means restore. If I click on this button, my window goes back to the way that it was. If you remember, this was the exact size that it was before we maximized it. So there's a toggle between maximizing and restoring. Once you maximize, you can't maximize again. You can only restore, or what's called minimize. If I restore this window, it goes back to its original size. There's something else that I can do with this window. This is called minimizing. This means keep it running, but don't display it on the desktop. This is this icon here, this little lower line. I click on this. If you look towards the bottom of the Windows 95 screen, called the taskbar, it says My Computer right here. This means it's still running in memory, but it's not on the desktop. If I want to go back to it, all that we need to do is put your mouse over this button that says My Computer here on the taskbar, click once, and there we go, it gets restored back to its original size. If I want to go ahead and close down this window, not maximize it, not minimize it, but actually close it until I open it again later on, I can select this X right here. And it goes away. The only way I can open it back up now is to select these windows and move them out of the way so that I can see the My Computer icon. If I double click on it, now I can open it back up. Understanding how to work with Windows in Windows 95 is a real key, for everything in Windows 95 runs within a window. This is really important to understand. It's a good idea when you're through working with a window or windows to actually close them down by clicking on the X on their title bars. So let's close all these down. I'm going to click on the X on My Computer. Then we'll come over to Drive C, click on its X, and then we'll come over to this Win95 window and click on its X. I'm going to show you a little trick right now. We come back up to My Computer, let's double click on it, and once again let's double click on Drive C. And one more time, let's double click on the Win95 folder to open it up. Okay, we have 3 windows opened up. My Computer, the C drive of My Computer, and here the Win95 folder, showing us the contents of what's in the Win95 folder. We could say that these windows here are children of this parent, the My Computer window, because we opened it up first and then we opened up the children. What if we want to quickly close down all of these windows in one fell swoop? Well, there's a little trick. We come to the last child, which is the Win95 window, go over to its X icon, hold down our Shift key on our keyboard. We first hold down our Shift key, then click on the X. Watch what will happen. All of the windows close down. This is a feature of Windows 95. We've just shown you how to maneuver through the Windows 95 desktop. We took a look at how to use a mouse, and we looked at some computer basics. We showed you how to work with Windows 95 windows, as well as how to work with its desktop icons.
Dan just showed you how to get comfortable in working with Windows 95 windows. I'm going to give you a tour of Windows 95. I'm going to teach you about the Start menu and how to start a program from within Windows 95. We're going to learn about the most recently used file list and about exiting a Windows application. We're also going to learn how to shut down Windows 95 when we're done. If you bring your mouse pointer down to this Start button right here and leave it there for a moment, it says click here to begin. This is our starting point for a lot of what we do in Windows 95. I'm going to click one time on this Start button. At this point, I no longer need to hold my mouse button down at all. All I have to do is come up to Programs. So I bring my mouse up to Programs without holding down the button. We're going to go over to Accessories. So I move over to the right and up to Accessories. Once again, not holding my mouse button down at all. Now I go over to the right and down to Paint. This is a fun application that ships with Windows 95. To actually run Paint, I need to click one time with my dominant mouse button, in my case the left mouse button. So I go ahead and click one time, and we're going to launch the application called Paint. Here I am in Paint, and I'm ready to either start a new document or open up an existing document. I'm going to come over to the File menu over here, click one time on File, and select Open. This right here is called our Open Dialog Box. It's a familiar dialog box in that it appears in many different applications, for example, Microsoft Word, Excel, and so forth. These three items here, my computer, network neighborhood, and my briefcase, are representing three different areas on my computer that are part of my actual desktop. What I want to do is go into the file structure on the C drive, the hard disk of my computer. So I'm going to come over to this drop down right here, click once, and here underneath my computer I can see that my computer has a drive called Drive C. Notice I have a 3.5-inch floppy, Drive C, Drive D, and Drive E. So I'm going to come over to Drive C and let go of my mouse button. And now I can see all of the folders within Drive C. Remember, as Dan told you, these are places where you can place your actual files. Think of them like file folders in a file drawer. Within the Win95 folder is a file that I want to look at. So I'm going to come over to Win95 and double-click my mouse. The open dialog box will change to show me the folders that are underneath Win95 as well as the files that are within the Win95 folder. I'm going to come over to this arrow right over here to scroll over to the right. So I click until I can see a file called Win95. This is actually a bitmap file, a file that contains a picture. I can either double-click on this Win95 file name or else single-click and then come down and click on the default choice, which is Open. So I'm going to select Open here. And now I can see my Windows 95 or Win95 bitmap file. Right now I'm maximized. Notice if I come up here, as Dan taught you, I can click to restore so that Paint is no longer taking up my whole screen, or I can come over to right here and maximize again, and now my bitmap or Paint is taking up the whole screen. Paint is a fun and useful program that allows us to modify and create bitmap files. We're using Paint to learn a little bit about working with a program in Windows 95. Right now, even when we're maximized, I cannot see the entire bitmap. If I want to look over to the right and see the remainder of the bitmap, I can come over to this scroll arrow right over here and click my mouse, and you can see that I scroll over to the right side and can see the right side of the picture. I can also use this left arrow right here and scroll back over to the left. I can also use this scroll bar. I can take the scroll bar, click, and drag over to the right wherever I'd like, and then let go. And I can click and drag to the left. I also have a vertical scroll bar with arrows. Here's my down arrow. I can click to scroll down. Each click will scroll me down a little bit further. I can click on the up scroll arrow and scroll up a little bit at a time. And once again, I can take the scroll bar and click and drag it down to any point that I'd like, or back up again. So we can see that we can navigate around within our bitmap file. I could modify this file, but what I'm going to do is just close it down. To close my application, I come up to this X right over here. This allows me to actually take the program out of memory. So I'm going to click on the X, and I've now closed Paint. It is no longer even running. If I come back down over to my Start button right here, click once on my Start button, if I wanted to go into Paint again, I could go back through Programs, but I actually am given a shortcut. If I come up to Documents right over here, I can see all of the documents that I've recently worked with. Looking over here to the right, we can see the Win95 bitmap that we were just working with. If I click one time on Win95, it brings up that document and brings up the Paint application along with it. What we're going to do is take this file right here and save it under another name. So I'm going to come up to the File menu and select Save As. I'm leaving the original file on disk, but I'm going to now give the file another new name. Within our Windows 95 directory, we're going to save this file and call it our Windows Picture. And then click on Save. Notice that at the title bar, we now have the name of our new file, our Windows Picture. The original file, called Win95, is intact on disk. I'm going to come over to this X to close down the Paint application. And once again, let's go over to Start. Click once. Go over to Documents, and notice now we have our Windows Picture in addition to Win95. Clicking on our Windows Picture brings back Paint with the file that we just created. And now we can shut down again. We've seen how we can run an application, how we can close that application, and how we can look at the most recently used files. We haven't taken a look at the entire Start menu yet. Let's take a better look at the Start menu. Let's come down to Start again. Click one time. And we've talked about Programs, which allows us to run most Windows applications. Documents, which allows us to look at our recently used files. And we have down here Settings. Settings allows us to change the configuration of our computer. This will be covered in later tapes, but it's important to know you can change things such as your background wallpaper, your colors, information about your printers, and so forth. Sometimes we lose track of where a file is stored on disk. This is where Find comes into play. We can use Find to find files or folders on our computer when we don't remember where they are. We can come down to Help and select Help to get help on working with Windows 95. And we can select Run to run applications that aren't listed within Programs, such as a setup from your A drive. We'll be talking about Shutdown in a moment. I'm going to come over here and click so I close down the Start menu and show you an alternative for bringing up the Start menu. If you hold down your Control key on your computer and tap your Escape key one time, that will also bring up the Start menu. You can then use your mouse or your up and down arrow keys to navigate through the menus. When you reach a menu that you want to go into, such as Documents, if that menu item contains a right arrow, all you need to do is tap your right arrow on your keyboard and you'll go into that menu, and once again you can use the up and down keys to navigate. If I decide I don't want to be in here, I can hit my left arrow key and it closes me back up. If I were to go back over to the right, find a file such as our Windows Picture, and hit my Enter key, it's actually going to launch the Paint application and bring up that document. Once again, let's close down Paint. If I've used Control Escape and I'm down somewhere within here and I want to close down my menu, I can hit my Escape key. One time will bring me back one layer, another time will close down the Start menu entirely. Not only is it important to know how to work with Windows 95, it's also important to know how to shut it down properly when you're done. Believe it or not, when you want to shut down your computer, you still need to go into the Start button here. So I'm going to click on the Start button and then select Shut Down from the menu. This is the dialog box that appears. It says Shut Down Windows. It says, are you sure you want to? We can shut down the computer, restart the computer in MS-DOS mode, or close all programs and log on as a different user. Well, let's talk about these options. If I were to select Shut Down the Computer and select Yes, I would be shutting down the computer so that I could turn it off safely. It's important to select this option when you wish to turn the power off from your computer. If I select Restart the computer, it actually goes out, shuts down the computer, but then reboots it. You select this option when you're having problems, want to clear out the memory of your computer and get a fresh start. Restart the computer in MS-DOS mode is only used for some very old applications that won't run properly under Windows 95. Close all programs and log on as a different user is if a friend of yours or a coworker were going to come up and use your machine. You may want them to log in with their own settings and their own rights, so you would select this option. Generally, you're going to select Shut down the computer and then select Yes. You can see that Windows 95 is shutting down the computer and it says it's now safe to turn off your computer. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to properly shut down your computer before you turn the power off. This is very important. It ensures that all of the files are properly saved and written to disk. In this section, you learned all about the Start menu. You learned how to start a program and how to work with most recently used documents. By the way, in working with most recently used documents, only 32-bit application documents appear on this list. You also learned how to exit a Windows application.
Anytime you start using a new operating system, such as Windows 95, there will be times when you might need some assistance in performing certain actions. This is where the Windows 95 Help feature comes in. In this next section, we're going to show you how to access Windows 95 Help. We'll show you the 3 tabs: the Contents tab, the Index tab, and the Find tab. Let's see how these all work. Back at the Windows 95 desktop, we come down to the famous Start button, and we click on it. And you'll notice there is a Help option. We take our mouse and come up to Help, simply single click, and the Help window will pop up. And you can see at the top of the window we have 3 tabs: Contents, Index, and Find. I'm going to click on Cancel for the moment. Let's go back to our Contents tab, and here we are. You'll see it says here, click a book and then click Open, or click another tab such as Index, as we've already shown you. These are help topics that are available to you as a user of Windows 95. We have a tour, a 10-minute tour to using Windows if you've used Windows before, and we have other items such as introducing Windows, how to, tips and tricks, and troubleshooting. If we go ahead and select How To, we can single click on it, and we can then come down to the bottom, and we can click on the Open button. And the How To book opens up to reveal its topics. And there are several topics, as you can see. So if we want to get some help, let's say, on working with files and folders, we can select Work with Files and Folders, and either double-click or again go down to the bottom and select the Open button. I'm going to go ahead and double-click on this topic this time to reveal more subtopics, and we can narrow down exactly what we're trying to find out. For instance, seeing what's on your computer. Again, we can double-click, and a help window will pop up, and it will tell you how to see what's on your computer. You can simply follow the item step by step. And in addition, at the bottom here, there are tips to tell you how to do things a little more quickly. We can scroll down and see the rest of the help. As well, there are related topics. Notice that my mouse pointer, when it goes over the related topics text, changes to a hand with a finger. If I click on the related topics, I then get related topics, and I can go ahead and display one of those by clicking on the display button. And I get more help on some of the related topics. If I want to go back, I can go ahead and click on the Help Topics button at the top of my window, and I'm back in my main Help Topics screen. In addition to viewing help topics on our screen, we can print them out for later use. Let's see how we can do this. Once again, we're in our Topics tab, and we're looking under Working with Files and Folders. We could select another subtopic, such as copying a file to a floppy disk, and if we wanted to print this out for later, simply come down to the Print button and click once. Windows 95 will go out and print that topic. Right now we're getting a print dialog, and Windows 95 is asking us what type of printer are we going to be using. It has defaulted to Microsoft Fax because that's the only printer that we have installed. If we were to go ahead and select the OK button, Windows 95 would print out our topic. And it's printing the topic right now. Back at our Help Topics main window, let's go ahead and click on the Index tab. This allows us to search for the type of help that we're looking for. For instance, if we wanted help on the Start menu, notice that as I begin to type, if I type the letter S, that down here, Windows 95 Help jumps to the first help topic that contains an S. Once I type the next letter, it'll jump to the first topic that begins with the letters ST. And if I continue with an A and an R, it will jump to my Start menu because it's, of course, START. I can then go ahead and continue to type or simply select from the options that are available here, such as removing programs from the Start menu. If I want to display information on this particular topic, I can click on the Display button down at the bottom of my Help window. And Windows Help comes up telling us how to remove a program from the Start or Programs menu. Okay. I have some options every time I get an informational help window like this. If I come over here and click on the Options button, notice there are several different things I can do. I can annotate, I can copy this to what's called the Windows clipboard, and so that I could then later insert the help text into another document. I could, of course, print the topic, or I can change my font that I'm viewing with on screen, small, normal, or large. I can also keep help on the top. That means that if I'm working with other programs, this help window will always be in the foreground, and my application program will always be in the background. And I can also choose to use system colors. One of these options can come in very handy, and this is the Annotate option. If I select Annotate by clicking on it, I can then go ahead and enter in my own personalized notes. And I can say anything I want to say about it. And of course, I could go on and add text, as much text as I like. Then I have the option to save my annotation. I can simply click on my Save button. And I have gone ahead and annotated this particular help topic. The way that I know that an annotation exists is by looking right here. Notice there's a little green paper clip. If I click on it, it brings up my annotation. If I delete my annotation by clicking on the Delete key, notice that the paper clip goes away, and I no longer have any annotation. The last option for Windows 95 Help is the Find option. Let's see how this works. Let's go back to our main Help Topics window by clicking on Help Topics right here. And let's choose the Find tab now by clicking on Find. And the first thing that we get is the Find Setup Wizard. because this is the first time that we've attempted to access Windows 95 help. You may get this also if this is your first time trying to access Windows 95 help. We're told that Find enables us to search for specific words and phrases and help topics instead of searching for information by category. However, before we can use Find, Windows needs to create a list or a database that contains every word from our help file or files. So we have a couple of options. We can choose minimize database size, which is recommended, or maximize search or customize search. We're going to go ahead and go with what's recommended and simply click on the Next button. Finally, we'll click on Finish to let Windows 95 create a help database. This only happens the very first time that you have selected Windows 95 help. Every time after this, we won't have to go through this somewhat time-consuming process. And Windows 95 is creating a word list. Once it's completed, we'll be able to go ahead and use the Find feature of help. And the Find feature now becomes available. There's different steps involved. First of all, we need to type the word or words that we want to find. We can go ahead and we can go ahead and type in TASK for taskbar, and notice as I'm typing, in the second box down here, step number 2, it's narrowing down the search to the letters that I have typed. I typed in TASK, and the subjects corresponding to that appear right here in my second list box. And it says select some matching words to narrow my search. I'll go ahead and select taskbar by double-clicking on it. And then in my third box down here, it'll say click a topic and then click display, so we can actually view the help topic that we're looking for. And we can come up and notice that we can scroll through by using our scroll bar, and we can select different topics. And we can select customizing the taskbar or start menu. The next thing we need to do once we've selected the help topic of our choosing is to come down and click on display. And once again, we get information on the topic that we have chosen. Once we're done with help, all we need to do is come up and click on the X to exit out of Windows 95 help. And we're back at our Windows 95 desktop. There is one shortcut to help. If you don't want to access it off the start menu, you can use your keyboard. And at the top of your keyboard or along one of the sides, you have function keys or F keys. F1 has traditionally been known as the help key. If we hit F1 while we're here in the Windows 95 desktop, Windows 95 help will appear. And again, we can go ahead and select whichever tab we wish to use, and we can go ahead and access help this way. A shortcut for closing down Windows, which was also true for Windows 3.1, is to use your keyboard instead of your mouse, hold down your Alt key, and tap your F4 key. And the window will automatically close. We've just seen how we can get Windows 95 help when and if we need it. We saw how we can access help directly off the Start menu. And we took a look at the 3 tabs, the Contents tab, the Index tab, and the Find tab. If you need help while using Windows 95, don't hesitate to use it.
One of the great things about working with Windows 95 is once you've worked with one program, you really have a great understanding of how to work with all the other programs. In this section, we're going to work with Notepad. We're going to learn about the similarities between Windows 95 applications. You're going to see how to open a file, scroll around an existing document, create a new file, and enter and select text. We're also going to learn how to copy, cut, and paste text. To start Notepad, we need to bring the mouse pointer down to the Start button and click. Notepad is within Programs, so come up to Programs, and let's go up to Accessories. Within Accessories, if you come over and down, you'll find Notepad, and then single click on Notepad. This launches the Notepad application. Notepad is a text editor. It allows us to view, create, and modify text files. To look at a file, I'm going to come over here to my File menu, select File, and then Open. Once again, we're looking at Desktop, and the elements of the desktop, My Computer, Network Neighborhood, and My Briefcase. Come over to this drop-down right here and click once. Within My Computer, we want to look on C drive. So come down to Drive C and click your mouse. Now we're looking at the files that are on the C drive. If we go into the folder Win95 within Drive C by double-clicking on it, we can see all of the text files. Notice asterisk.txt. These are ASCII text files that can be read and written to by any text editor. We're looking at all the text files within the Win95 folder. Notice the icons for the text file. It looks like a little piece of paper. All of these files are text files. If we scroll over to the right, you have a text file within your Win95 folder called Tips. We want to open up this file within Notepad. You can double-click on Tips or else single-click on it and click on Open. Let's double-click on Tips, which is the shortcut. We've now loaded the text file. Where we're stored, we're not maximized. If we want to maximize, we can come up to this little button right up here and click on it. We're looking at the top of this text file. If you want to see what's down below, you can hit your page down key, and each page down will take you down one screen at a time. The page up key will take you up one screen at a time. There's some other ways we can scroll. I can come down and use my scroll bar. Each click will scroll me down a little bit within the document. I can also click and drag to wherever I'd like within the document. Down and up. As we go through Notepad and learn about its features, it's important that you understand that you're learning about all Windows 95 applications. The great thing is that Windows 95 applications all look and feel alike. For example, you could use your page down and page up keys to move a screen at a time up and down in Microsoft Word. You could also use your scroll bars to scroll through the document. So remember, as we're going through this entire section, focus on the fact that you're learning about how to work with all Windows applications. Right now we're looking at an existing text file. Now remember, this isn't a word processor. This is simply a notepad where you can create text files. We're going to create a brand new text file. To do that, come up to your File menu and select New. Here we have a brand new place to enter text. We didn't make any changes to the other file, so we weren't asked if we wanted to save, but that file is no longer open. If you look up top on the title bar, you'll see we're now in an untitled text file, and if you look down at the bottom at the taskbar, you'll also see that we are in an untitled text file or document. Up here you can see our cursor is blinking. I'm going to type in some information. This is some text that we are entering into the Notepad. Notepad is a very simple application that allows us to create text files. Press Enter. Notice that we don't even get word wrap as we would expect in a word processor. If I want to place a hard return right here before Notepad, I can click my mouse. Notice what's called the I-beam. I place the I-beam to the left of Notepad and click, and I get a blinking cursor there. Now I can press Enter, and I've moved that line down below. Notepad is not a word processor, but it does allow us to create text files. I'm ready to save this file. To do that, I'll come up to my File menu and select Save. Save and Save As will both do the same thing since we have not yet named this file. By selecting Save, I get a dialog box that asks me what I want to name the file and where I want to place it. We're going to place our file in the Win95 directory. We're going to call this file, this is our very long Notepad file. Now I click on Save, and you can see it says this is our very long Notepad file. That's now the name of the document. And down here on the taskbar, we can't even see the entire name because it's so long. If I want to open back up the other file, the tips file, I can come up to the File menu and select Open. Because we've saved our file, if I come over and select Tips, now we're looking at Tips, and Notepad did not ask us if we wanted to save the other document. We hadn't made any changes since we last saved. Right now I'm looking at Tips. I want to take some information out of Tips and copy it and paste it into our very long document. To select text, I bring my I-beam to the left of the place where I want to begin my selection. I then click, hold down my mouse button, and drag to select the text that I want to copy or cut. Copy means I'm going to make an additional copy. Cut means I'm going to remove the text from where it is now and place it somewhere else. So I've selected the text that I want to copy. Remember, any text you want to copy or select, you click and drag to select the text. Click and drag. This is the text that I want to copy. I come up to my Edit menu and select Copy. Notice I could also use Control-C, which is a hotkey combination that's very common in Windows 95. I'm going to select Copy from the Edit menu. Now I'll come up to the File menu and select Open. Let's open up our document called This is a Very Long Notepad File. I double-click, and now all I need to do is place my cursor where I want to insert the text. My cursor is blinking right up at the beginning of my document. I'm going to press Enter 2 times. I've inserted some blank space at the top of this document. Now I'm going to press my up arrow key twice. To paste the text from the other document into this insertion point, I come up to the Edit menu and select Paste. Notice I could also use my Control-V keystroke combination, which would be another way to execute a paste. Once again, this is common amongst all Windows applications. I click on Paste, and now we've pasted in the text from the other document. We've learned how to copy information from one text file to another. We're going to learn a little bit more about selecting and working with text, and then we're actually going to learn how to bring up something called Wordpad and copy from one application to another. Let's highlight the text that says R. So you click and drag to highlight that text. If you begin to type, you'll replace R with whatever you begin to type. I'm going to type in will be. Notice the moment I began to type, I replaced R with will be. So all you have to do is select the text that you want to replace and then begin to type. What if I want to undo that change which I just made? Come up to your Edit menu and select Undo. You also could use Control-Z. Undo undoes the very last change that you made. Not the last 2 changes or the last 3 changes, but the last change that you made. So just this one change from entering to typing was undone. Let's leave Notepad open. Come down to your Start button, click on your Start button, come up to Programs, Accessories, and then let's go down to Wordpad at the very bottom and click. Wordpad is a richer word processor than Notepad. It actually creates more like a word processing document. It isn't as powerful as Microsoft Word, but it's a mini version or scaled down version of Word. If we look down on our taskbar, we can see Start, we can see the long Notepad file name, and we can see the brand new document in Wordpad. My cursor is blinking in Wordpad. Its title bar is blue. It's the active application, the application which has the focus. I'm going to type in some information. This is some text that I am typing in Wordpad. Press Enter a couple of times. Let's maximize Wordpad so we can't even see Notepad right now. Come up to Maximize and click on it. What if I wanted to take some information from Notepad and bring it into Wordpad? Come down to the taskbar and click on this is a very long Notepad file. Now we're looking at Notepad. I'm going to highlight this text right here, and with it selected, come up to the Edit menu and select Cut. I also could have used Control X. Now I'll come down to my taskbar and click to go down to Wordpad. Notice that the text is gone from Notepad. We cut rather than copied. Now I'm back in Wordpad and I can edit, paste, or use Control V, or if I look right over here, I have some icons. In fact, they have what's called tooltips that tell me what they do. And I can click on Paste, and I've now taken that information from Notepad and placed it into Wordpad. Wordpad is very similar to Notepad in a lot of ways. Let's take a look. If I come up to this button right here, which is my Restore button, and click on it, Wordpad is no longer taking up the entire screen. Let's click back on Notepad, which I can see in the background, and restore it as well. And then place the two applications so that we can see both of them at the same time. Notice that they both have file menus. If I click on the file menu for Notepad, we have New, Open, Save, Save As, Page Setup, Print, and Exit. If I come over to the file menu for Wordpad, we have very similar options. We also have some additional options since this application is richer. If I come over to Edit, we can see in Wordpad things such as undo, cut, copy, paste, and so forth. If I click back over here on Notepad and look at the Edit menu, you can see that the menu is similar. I also have a Help menu in Wordpad and a Help menu in Notepad, and they're identical. In the middle, we can see some menus that differ. Search doesn't exist in Wordpad. View, Insert, and Format do not exist in Notepad. So they're similar, but not exactly the same. While we're over here in Wordpad, notice that you can take and highlight some text and do things to the text such as bold it, italicize it, and we can even do things such as change the color. We can also do things such as highlight some text, change the font style, and the size. So there's quite a bit that we can do in Wordpad. As I mentioned, it's a miniature version or scaled down version of Microsoft Word. Let's save this Wordpad document. I can select File Save, or I can click on this icon right here. We're at Desktop, and I'm going to come up to my C drive within Desktop and go to Win95. And for our document name, we'll type in, "This is a very long Wordpad name," and then click on Save or press Enter. Let's close down Wordpad and close down Notepad. Since I made some changes in Notepad since I last saved it, I'm being asked if I want to save my changes. I'm going to select Yes, otherwise I would lose the change of cutting the text. We've learned quite a bit about working with Windows 95 applications. We're now going to look at how we can print out our documents, as well as how we would view these long document names at an MS-DOS prompt. Move your mouse cursor down to Start and click. Let's just use our last used documents or recently used documents. Go over to Documents and select, this is our very long Notepad file. To print this document, all you need to do is come up to the File menu and select Print. Windows 95 and Notepad will take that text and send it out to the printer. Now that we've printed this document, let's close it down. If you come down to your Start menu and go over to Programs, one of the options down here is MS-DOS prompt. Go ahead and select MS-DOS prompt. It's important to understand how your long file names appear at an MS-DOS prompt if you bring them to a DOS machine. Type in dir and press Enter. You'll get a bunch of files scrolling by. Don't be concerned about this. Down at the bottom, we can see the files which we created. Over here are the names that we created. This is our very long Notepad file. This is a very long Wordpad name. Over here are the cryptic names that somebody would see if they were to use this file on an MS-DOS machine. These are also the names that a user would get if they were working with Windows 3.1 or Windows for Workgroups 3.11, because neither Windows 3.1 nor Windows for Workgroups 3.11 support long file names. So notice the cryptic file names that we're getting. These are the names that you would see within Windows 95. To exit out of this DOS prompt, simply type Exit and press Enter. And now you're back in your comfortable Windows 95 environment. In this section, you learned how to work with Windows 95 application programs. We used Notepad and Wordpad to learn about the similarities between Windows 95 applications. You learned how to open files, scroll through existing files, and how to create new files. You learned how to enter and edit text, as well as how to cut, copy, and paste. These are very valuable tools in working with Windows 95 applications.
Next up, we're going to see how to keep track of our files and folders on our computer. We'll see how we can use the Windows Explorer. This is new to Windows 95. We'll see how we can select files, how we can move and copy files, and also how we can delete files when we want to. We'll take a look at the recycle bin, and finally, we'll see how to use the Start menu's Find utility. Let's go. To open up the Windows 95 Explorer, we come down to our Start button, click on it, and drag our mouse up to Programs and on over down to Windows Explorer, and click once. And the Windows Explorer window now becomes available. You'll notice there are two panes, one on the left and one on the right. Let's first talk about the pane here on the left. If we use our scroll bar, click and drag all the way up, we can see the very top of the left pane here in our Explorer. And notice that we have a list of all of our resources available to us on our particular computer. we have desktop, and that's the highest level, and it goes down from there, showing my computer and 3.5-inch floppy. Notice that to the left, and the Explorer is telling us, since we don't have a disk in drive A, that drive A is not accessible. Simply click on cancel if this comes up for you. Notice under my computer, to the very left of it is a minus sign. This is showing that my computer right now is expanded. It's showing us everything that is within my computer. If we click on the minus sign once, it then collapses my computer, and we just see the basic summary detail. We don't see any of the finer detail of my computer. We simply see that on our Windows 95 desktop, we have my computer and my network neighborhood if we were connected to a network. We have the recycle bin, and we have what's called my briefcase. We'll talk about this in a later tape. Let's click on Finish. Coming back up to my computer, notice on the right-hand pane, we get a list or the contents of my computer. 3.5-inch floppy, drive C, D, E, and the drive F, which is our CD-ROM drive, etc. If I go ahead and click on this plus sign here, I will be able to look at the details of all the resources available to my computer. So when I click on it, I can see all the different details. Notice as I click on the folders on the left side, the contents on the right side change correspondingly. This is showing me the contents of each folder that I'm clicking on. And you can see on down. Some folders have a lot of files, and others don't have as many. Now, if I come all the way down and scroll through, I can see all the resources available to my computer, including drive C and drive D, as well as drive E, which we happen to have, and our CD-ROM drive, drive F. So every resource that is at our disposal at the moment is represented here as we scroll down the list. Let's go back up. I'm going to go ahead and select drive C, and I'm going to select the Win95 directory. Since I can't see it, I need to scroll down. Remember, I'm working on my left-hand side right now. And we'll select Win95 by clicking once. And the contents, those items that are within my folder called Win95, are now displayed on the right-hand side of my screen. To make this a little bit easier to see, we can maximize this window by coming up and clicking on the maximize icon in the upper right-hand corner. Now we get a full screen view of the Windows Explorer. Let's go ahead and with the Windows 95 folder selected, let's work on the right-hand side of our Explorer now, and we want to find those files that Allison just created when she was showing you Notepad and Wordpad. Notice right now that everything is alphabetical. So here we are in our T's, and if I click once, I can select this is the very long Wordpad name, and right underneath it, this is a very long Notepad file. We'll go ahead and select this is a very long Notepad file. If we simply click once to select a file name, notice we can keep clicking and we can select different files. Well, you might wonder, what good is it to select a file? Well, let's say we wanted to copy this file from the Win95 folder into another folder. All that we would have to do is simply come over, click, and then drag. And notice that right now, right here, I get a do not drop sign, the circle with the line through it. That means I cannot let go, or if I do let go, nothing will be copied at this point. Now it turns into a plus sign, and I can drop this over here on the left-hand pane and put it in any one of these folders. If I want to come up, all I need to do is go to the top of the pane, and it automatically Windows 95 scrolls, so I can choose where I wish to drop this file off. Let's say I wish to put it in not the Win95 directory, but below that, the Windows directory, my old Windows directory. I simply go ahead and position it over the Windows directory and let go. Notice that over here on the right, that file is now gone. My Notepad file has been moved. This is because automatically, when you move on from one folder to another on the same drive, it's a move, it's not a copy. Well, let's go ahead and click on Windows, and let's see if we can find that file. Okay, remember it's alphabetical. Let's click on our scroll bar down here at the bottom of our screen to try to find it. And right here, I'll select it by clicking once. This is our very long Notepad file. Well, let's say I did not want to move it, but I wanted to leave it where it was and make a second copy of it in another folder. Well, this can be done very simply. It's the same process. However, you must hold down your Control key on your keyboard. So first the first thing I'm going to do now is hold down my Control key. Now I'm going to click and drag, and I'll move it back over to the Win95 directory. When I'm positioned over that directory, I'll simply let go. Notice that here we are in the Windows directory. You can tell the file folder here is open. Also, on the right-hand side, at the top of my pane, it says contents of my Windows folder, not Win95. Notice the file's still there. Let's come over to the left, click on the Win95 folder once, and let's see if we can find that file. We'll drag our scroll bar over, and now notice there it is, back together with the Wordpad file. We've just gone ahead and copied a file rather than moved it. If we need more viewing area, if one pane needs to be bigger than the other, we can go ahead and make some adjustments by using our mouse. We come over to where the panes meet, and you see how the mouse pointer changes into a double-headed arrow with a line in the middle. We can click and drag to the right or to the left, and we can make more room. When we let go, notice that the pane moves over. We want to put it back, we can simply go ahead, click and drag, and make more room where it's needed. This is a very simple operation. If the Windows Explorer made us copy or move files one file at a time, obviously this would become a very tedious process, but we can copy or move multiple files very easily. Let's see how. We still have our long Notepad file name selected. We can tell because it's highlighted here in blue. To deselect it, simply click anywhere in white space, and the file gets deselected. If we want to select multiple files, there are a few different ways we can do this. One of the easier ways is if we wanted to select this entire column of files, this vertical column here, we could select the very first file by clicking on it once with our mouse. We then need to come over to our keyboard, press down the Shift key, keep it held down, and bring our mouse pointer down to the bottom of the column, and then click once. Notice Windows 95 goes ahead and allows us to select all of the files in between. This is called a contiguous range because all the files are next to each other. Then all we would need to do is go ahead and select any one of them by clicking and then drag over, and notice it shows graphically that we're actually moving them or copying them all, and we could select whichever folder we wanted to, and we could simply drop them in there. Let's go ahead and put them back for the moment though, and let go. If we wanted to copy a non-contiguous range, for example, this one, this one, this one, notice we can't do it unless we hold down our Control key. Hold down our Control key, now we can select a non-contiguous range of files. And we can Once we've gone ahead and selected the files we wish to work with, then all we need to do is pick one of them in the range, and all of them will follow. As you can see, graphically depicted here, I could move them all over to drive D, for example, by simply dropping the one where the plus sign is, dropping my mouse cursor over the D and letting go. Windows 95 is giving us an error because I tried to copy a file that cannot be copied. We can go ahead and click on OK. If we go ahead and deselect this file by holding down our Control key and clicking once, now let's go ahead and click. We could pick any one of these, click and drag over to the D colon, the D drive, and let go. And now Windows 95 Explorer wants us to confirm our choice. It says this folder already contains a file called tiles. Would we like to replace the existing file? We could say yes or no. If we say yes, it will go ahead and replace it. If we say no, it won't. Let's say no for the moment. And it also contains an existing file called very long Wordpad name. We're going to go ahead and say that's okay. Replace the existing file for this one. We'll click on yes. Also, the other folder contains a file called triangles. Would we like to replace this one? We'll go ahead, we'll say yes. And there's still another one. Once again, we'll go ahead and we'll say yes. And when we've gone ahead and said yes to all of them, the transfer will have taken place. We could choose other files, and there's another operation we can perform. We could go ahead and we could select a waves file and hold down our Control key, and we could select WinNews, for example. So now we have two files that we have selected. And instead of clicking and dragging, what we can do after we've selected the files that we wish to copy or move is we can put our mouse pointer over one of the files and use our right mouse button. Now we have various options that we can choose from, two of which are cut or copy. Notice down in the lower corner of the screen, Windows 95 is telling us what these operations actually do. Copy copies the selected items to the clipboard, and of course paste would put them in a new location. So we can use the Windows 95 clipboard to copy and move files as well. If I choose cut, I can go ahead and click on cut, and then I can go ahead and let's move over to the D drive. Notice these files are still here. If I click on the D drive, it'll show me the contents of D, and let's see what happens if we simply right mouse click and then choose paste. Notice down here, those two files were now moved simply by cutting and pasting. This is a new feature of Windows 95. Copying or moving files can be as simple as cut and paste, as you just saw. Deleting files is very easy as well. However, fortunately, Windows 95 has a fallback. If you delete a file or files and you decide you didn't want to delete them, they can be undeleted. This is called the recycle bin. And let's take a look at how this works. We're back in the Windows 95 Explorer, and we've taken the liberty of copying two of our long file names into our D drive here in our computer. We have our long Notepad file name along with our long Wordpad file name. I'm going to hold down my Control key, first select the Wordpad file, and then I'll click on the long Notepad file. So we now have two files that are highlighted, which means they have been selected. We can then perform an operation on them. We can go ahead and choose for these files to be deleted. If we come up to our File menu in the Explorer and select Delete, we click on Delete, and the Explorer wants us to confirm that this is indeed what we wish to do. Send these two items to the recycle bin. We'll click on Yes, and you'll see graphically represented the deletion of the files. Notice they're no longer displayed here. They're now gone. Where did they go? Well, they are not deleted permanently. Let's minimize the Explorer by clicking on the Minimize button, and come over to the Windows 95 desktop icon called the Recycle Bin. This is where those deleted files are sent. If we double click on Recycle Bin, notice that here they are. We can maximize the Recycle Bin to see them more clearly. And here they are with all their details, both of our files. Now once this fills up, once the Recycle Bin fills up, it will automatically begin to permanently erase these files. But as long as they're in here, if we decided that we did not want to really delete these files, we made a mistake, we can remedy this problem very easily. We can come up to the Recycle Bin's Edit menu, and we can select Undo Delete. And notice that those two files disappear from the Recycle Bin. Let's close down the Recycle Bin, go back and go to the taskbar, click on the Explorer to open it back up, and notice those files are back where they were before we deleted them. Now that you've seen how to move, copy, and delete files, there may be times where you wish to find a particular file, but you can't remember or you can't locate exactly where it is on your computer or on your network. Well, you should use the Find utility off the Start menu. Let's take a look at it. First, let's go ahead and close the Explorer down. If I wanted to, I could simply click on the X over in the right-hand corner, but just to show you there's more than one way to skin a cat, we can come up and select the File menu and then select the Close option. This will also exit us out of the Explorer. And we're back at the Windows 95 desktop. Let's come down to the Start button and click once, and then come up to Find. And notice that we have three options. We can find files or folder, we can find information on the computer, and we can find information on the Microsoft network. Let's select Find Files or Folders by highlighting it and then clicking once. And the Find dialog shows up. Notice that we have three tabs: Name and Location, Date Modified, and Advanced. Let's go back to Name and Location. And we can go ahead and we can select a file that we're looking for the Windows Find tool to find. I have a drop-down list box here. If I click on it, if I had used this Find utility in a prior session, I could go ahead and see what my prior searches were. Right below this named drop-down list box is another drop-down list box called Look In. Right now we're looking in Drive C. If I click on the arrow, I can see more information from my drop-down list box, and I can choose which drive I want to search on. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at Drive C. There's an option checkbox here which says Include Subfolders. So if I'm looking for a particular file, but I don't have any clue as to where it might be, I want to make sure that this box is checked. This means that Windows 95 will go out and look in all of the folders on my computer, not just the one that I happen to be in now. I can go ahead and I can click on the Browse button here. And I can browse my computer, and I can choose which drive, again, which drive that I want the search to be run on. I'll leave it again on Drive C. I can click on Cancel. And now what we can do is go ahead and enter in a file name or a specification for a file name and let Windows 95 track it down. We had a file called this is a long Wordpad file name and this is a long Notepad file name. What if I want to find all the files that begin with the word this? We can type in THIS, and there are some special characters that Windows 95 uses. There's the asterisk character, or the star, is used to denote all characters. If I type the word this and then an asterisk, Windows 95 will go out and find all the occurrences of files that begin with the word this. Let's click on Find Now. Notice down here at the bottom, Windows 95 is going out and searching all the occurrences of files that begin with this in their names. We have this one here, and we can go down and see all the ones that contain the name, the word this. So we can search on files, we can search for many files, not just one particular one. If we wanted to search for one particular one, come back up, highlight the named file location we're looking for, and we can click in, for example, win95.bmp. That's one particular file. And we can click on Find Now, and we'll see if Windows can find that particular file. It's gone out and it's found it right here in the folder called C Win95. It tells us its size and the type of file that it is. If we go ahead and maximize this window, we can also get more information as to when it was modified. If we come up to the second tab, the Date Modified tab, we can go ahead and search files based on their creation or modification dates. And you can see we can choose between certain dates, or we can have during the previous number of months or days. Finally, on the Advanced tab, we can select the type of files that we want to look for. For example, all files and folders, or different types of files, applications, application extensions, bitmaps, etc., including even help files, terminal files, and the list goes on and on and on. Once we've selected a type of file that we wish to look for, we could go ahead and enter in a string of text, and Windows 95 would find files that contain this string of text. For example, this is a form. If I were to click on Find Now, Windows 95 would find all files that are Microsoft Excel files which contain the words, "This is a form." We can go ahead and shut down the Find utility by clicking on the X in the upper right-hand corner, and we go back to our Windows 95 desktop. We've just seen how Windows 95 can help you to keep track of your folders and files. We saw how we can use the Windows Explorer to select files and then copy or move them. We also saw how we can delete the files and how Windows 95 sends them automatically to the recycle bin before they get permanently deleted. We also saw how we could undo deletions, and finally, we took a look at the Find tool off the Start menu to see how we can locate files that we couldn't find.
In an earlier section, I taught you how to work with Notepad and Wordpad simultaneously. In this section, we're going to delve into working with multiple applications a little bit further. You're going to learn about tooltips and how to keep track of open applications. You'll also learn how to easily switch between applications. You'll learn some copy and paste tricks and how to dock your taskbar. Finally, you'll learn how to customize the taskbar. Let's go down to the Start menu, select Programs, select Accessories, and select Notepad. Let's go back to the Start menu, select Programs, Accessories, and Paint. Let's go back to the Start menu again, select Programs, Accessories, and Wordpad. In Wordpad, maximize, come up to the File menu, and you should still have, this is a very long Wordpad name as one of the last 4 files you worked on. Go ahead and click on it. If it's not listed there, you'll need to go through File Open and find it. Let's click back over on Paint down here on our taskbar. File Open in Paint. And from Desktop, let's go down to our C drive, go into the Win95 directory, scroll over to the right and open up Win95. We have our bitmap. Let's go down to Untitled Notepad, click, maximize that one as well. File, Open, and let's open up again on Drive C in Win95 in the folder Win95, scrolling over to the right. Let's open up the This Is Our Very Long Notepad file. If you come down to your taskbar, we can take a look at tooltips. Placing your mouse cursor over the very first task, the notepad, we actually get the name of the document that we have open in that window, in that application. Coming over to this next item on our taskbar, because the file name is not too long to fit, we're not getting a tooltip. Going over here to our Wordpad, you can see that we get a tooltip. So we get tooltips when we need to. Right now, all of our applications are maximized. Come up to this button right here, which is Minimize, and we've just minimized Notepad. Let's also come up and minimize Paint. And now let's minimize Wordpad. Right now, it looks as if the applications are no longer running, but indeed they are running. They're just minimized. I can tell that they're still executing by looking down here. To go back to one of them and make it active, I just need to go down to the taskbar and click. And now I've made that task active. I'm no longer minimized. As far as keeping track of active applications, one way to do this is just to look at the bottom and see what's on the taskbar. But we can also hold down our Alt key and tap the Tab key. Notice that we can see all of the applications that are currently running. If you continue to hold down your Alt key and tap your Tab key again and again, you get a blue box indicating which application will become active if you were to let go. Looking down below right here, we can see the name of the application and the name of the open document. So Paint is our application and Win95 is the open document. If you come over to this one right here where it says this is a very long Wordpad name in Wordpad, and you then let go of the Alt key, you will be task switched over to that application. Here I am in my Wordpad. To show you a great tip called drag and push, we're going to launch Microsoft Word. We come over to Start and Programs and select Microsoft Word. So now Word is running as well. Let's go back over to Wordpad and select this text right here. Hold down your Control key and click and drag down to the name of the executing application, Microsoft Word. Without letting go, bring your mouse up and you should get a plus sign and an insertion point in Word. Then let go of your mouse and let go of your Control key. You've just copied the information from Wordpad over to Word. Let's go back over to Wordpad by clicking on the taskbar and select some other text. This time, don't hold down the Control key. Click and drag over to the taskbar. Place your insertion point wherever you'd like and then let go. Go back over to your document and notice that this time you've moved it rather than copy it because you did not use the Control key. Here's my taskbar. What if I wanted to place my taskbar somewhere else on my Windows 95 screen? I'm going to come over to a gray area where I'm not actually clicking on one of these buttons down here, and then I'll click and drag. Notice that I can dock the taskbar to the left, to the right, the top, or the bottom. Let's go over to the right and let go. You can see that we've docked the taskbar. It's very nice. We still get our tooltips. We're taking up the right side of the screen instead of the bottom. Click and drag to the top. And it's now at the top. To the left. And it's docked on the left side. And the bottom. And it's docked back down at the bottom. To finish up the tape, let's see how we can customize our taskbar. Right mouse click on the taskbar. So click with your right or non-dominant mouse key and click on Properties. Here we get taskbar options. Whether or not the taskbar is always on top, whether you want to auto hide it, show small icons in the Start menu, and so forth. As far as Start menu programs, we can actually customize the Start menu itself. Going back over to taskbar options, I can select Show Small Icons in Start menu and notice the difference, larger and smaller. So you can customize this however you'd like. You can show the clock or not. I'm going to go ahead and select Cancel because I don't want to change anything, but you see that you can customize your own taskbar. One last final, very cute tip is that if you bring your mouse pointer over the clock on your taskbar and hold it there, not only can you see the time, but you also can see the day and the date. So this is very nice. In case you forget what day it is, what day of the week, or the date, here's how you can find it out. In this section, you learned more about working with multiple applications open at one time in Windows 95. You learned how to use the taskbar to facilitate the process of working with these multiple applications. You learned about tooltips and how to keep track of your open applications. You learned how to switch between applications as well as how to copy and paste easily from one application to another. Finally, you learned some taskbar tips, how to dock the taskbar in different places as well as how to customize it. We hope you've enjoyed this tour of Windows 95. We've given you an introduction to Windows 95 and have shown you how to maneuver through the desktop. We've shown you how to get help when you need it and how to work with programs. We've also taught you how to keep track of your files. And finally, we took a really good look at the taskbar.
On the next video, we'll show you how to work with desktop shortcuts. We'll take a look at how we can customize Windows 95. We'll see how we can use printing in Windows 95, and then finally, we'll take a look at some advanced techniques.
We hope you've enjoyed this training session and, more importantly, increased your knowledge and productivity. Keystone Learning Systems offers hundreds of courses including MS Office, Novell Perfect Office, NetWare, Lotus Smart Suite, Lotus Notes, Power Builder, Corel Draw, PageMaker, and many, many more. Each is designed to accelerate your learning curve and increase your productivity. Each makes a nice addition to your computer training library. Call us today if you have any additional questions or would like to place an order. Our phone number in the United States and Canada is 1-800-748-4838. And if you're calling from somewhere else in the world, please dial 801-375-8680. Thank you.